F-Zero, or as Smash Brothers fans know, Captain Falcon. Yeah! F-Zero is something we've all seen from afar, but haven't had much interaction with. Of the many demons man has fought, bisexuality, the Boom Clap song, the Borderlands movie, the next evil bee I'd like to submit for the approval of the Midnight Society is Black Bull. Fuck you and your bombs, you... Oh, I can't say that. By surprise, F-Zero remains the parched dog in the corner. Maybe someday Nintendo will throw it a bone, but it'll be one with a string. Having finally played the best F-Zero games, I can safely say there's definitely something here. That cult following is deserved, and I think this could do numbers now. And if I want this video to do one thing, is to make you turn your head in its direction. In this era of late-stage capitalism, we're seeing a return to the fads of yesterday year. We're getting remakes of Star Fox and Ocarina of Time in the same year for the second time. Just as those things came back, I think we're soon to see a resurgence in the late 90s, early 2000s style of game making. F-Zero is emblematic of an era of gaming not defined by remakes, of fishing games being scored like city pop albums or sports games being scored like Sonic games, of games taking risks and being wild, not necessarily conforming to a trend but blazing their own trail. F-Zero is of its time, but I wouldn't call it outdated. It's not something like, say, Castlevania 64 or Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, games that are good and have their moments in spite of the fact that they make a big decision that doesn't really work. I can see why they took Cornell out back and shot him like the dog that he is, just like I can see why they did this to Black Bull. They're gonna do this to me too. I know it. I'm here because I do this great thing once a year where I pick a game series I haven't touched and binge it. I don't set a concrete goal, I don't aim to accomplish anything, I just play until I get tired. That's how I discovered Devil May Cry, that's how I first played the Arkham games, and that's how I played F-Zero. First off as well, I wouldn't be here without my goat Ryoken. His Black Bull challenge was the best possible commercial for this franchise. He at least did a better job than the F-Zero GX promotional art. So enough spitballing and pointless yapping, let's get into the first game that made me love the F-Zero franchise. Strap in, get some popcorn, get some snacks, but real quick. Hey guys, I'm John Nasty, and I want to thank today's sponsor, my novel, Counter Cult. What if someone started a religion where everyone was right? Different thoughts and beliefs exist in everyone, yet so many people try to cater to something that doesn't fit. Jury sees this gap and wants to help people bridge it with his own theology, a god with no clear rules that anyone can shape in their own image. His ambiguous intentions quickly give way to a bigger question. If a religion can be anything, does it have any meaning? A greedy journalist manipulates this crack in Jury's logic, eager to turn this fragile vision into a payday. Their growing feud masks a mysterious force stacking cards in the shadows. What started as a spiritual experiment spirals into a crisis of identity, power, and purpose. Counter Cult is a thrilling drama with elements of magical realism and LGBTQ themes. It is a story of faith, identity, and the dangerous spaces between what we believe and what we fear. For every truly great game that stands the test of time, there's 2 or 3 licensed duds. But that doesn't apply to racing games. Ridge Racer 64, Excitebike 64, they're even fans of the Beetle racing game. The PS1 had all the classics, like Gran Turismo for instance, but I think the lineup of N64 was really slept on. There was a real experimentation to Nintendo's style at this time. There was a real I kissed a girl and I like it vibe with games like Ridge Racer 64. Am I gonna elaborate on that? No. The kingdom on these games, by far, in my opinion, is the deceptively accessible and excessively deceptive F-Zero X. What hooked me immediately was the music. I've heard a ton of it in Smash, and somehow it sounds even better here. Going Mach speed and the Mach 5 birdship vehicle thing makes that hit, and it's really how you're supposed to hear it. It's, oops, all bangers. This is an entirely different level of high octane. Content-wise, it's a pretty simple racing game. You got your Grand Prix, practice, time trials, the throwaway extra content modes. No story mode here, which I didn't mind, and trust me, we'll be talking about that. Nay. The real meat and potatoes of X is getting to grips with the handling and the game feel. This whole game is designed to basically get you used to it by each cup, not only progressing in difficulty, but just progressing with general tech needed. There is great difficulty scaling here, which I did not expect, and you won't need to get it right out of the gate. You can fall forward into some tournament wins for sure in the easy difficulties. But even on that easy difficulty, some of these tracks are no slouch. I went out of my way to soak up each race, to try and learn something new with each lap. That's ultimately the appeal and the draw of F-Zero X. And in comparison to Mario Kart 64, 30 players with 30 unique vehicles versus Mario Kart 64's 8 characters that share the same damn cart? One of the things that makes F-Zero X hold up is that buttery smooth 60 FPS frame rate that if I dripped on this mic, you'd hear it go down every fiber. It was liquid gold then, and let me tell you, it is just as solid now. That's the only thing that I really know about this game that I did research on, is that they compromised the graphics and environment just enough to get 30 racers on a track at once racing in 60 frames a second. That is some forward thinking, man. That is what the conversation on this game should still be about. The ability to go super fast in tight spaces and weave around traffic while maintaining speed was one of this game's true joys. And that feeling of slickness, the slickness of F-Zero, if you will, was something I was very consumed by here, because as much as I love the N64, slick isn't the first thing to come to mind. You're probably seeing in this footage that I suck absolute ass, but I want to say that it is purely a skill issue for one major reason. Going back to this game's legacy, revoke my gamer card if you wish, because I played this on NSO, and not on an N64 because I don't have $300 to spare, but also I was just too lazy to look into getting an N64 controller that was compatible, and I still fell in love with the franchise. I say deceptively accessible because a lot of conversation around this game is how it only works perfectly on N64. How much of a statement are we really making by saying a game is better on the hardware it was designed for? Yes, it controls best on N64. It was made for N64. I bet Chameleon Twist controls better on N64. Not every game could be fucking Gex. Be much better off saying how much of a technical marvel this is. How the music sounds straight out of a car radio after you had your first slushie from 7-Eleven. It's crisp as fuck! At the end of the day, F-Zero X is a showcase for the N64, a showcase of what happened when Nintendo worked smarter and harder, and it still delivers the thrills and the goods. It sets a damn fine precedent, and I was very excited to see where the series was going. Following the adrenaline rush of F-Zero X, I wanted something I could play while taking a shit, and I didn't want to lower GX to that bar, so here's Maximum Velocity, which I'm gonna call Maximum Overdrive because that Stephen King movie really should have been a Steven Spielberg movie. The Game Boy Advance is a fascinating console in its own right, with more isometric white noise than you could shake a Rayman or a Sound of Thunder at, where pretty much every gaming icon past or present had a slot. Don't believe me? Klonoa, Max Payne, Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, Frogger.
Not Gex.
And more importantly, for this video's sake, we saw the return of Mode 7, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Sonic Advanced Special Stages, and F-Zero Maximum Overvelocity. So FYI, before I tear a 7 out of 10 to shreds, this was fun, but honestly, I default to a 7 out of 10 for pretty much any game that I didn't force myself to put down and vaguely enjoyed. Did I finish it? Do I feel fulfilled? Does this build the gamer license? Yes. Is it filler because it's a known series? Yes. Before I get into anything technical, the courses take way too long to finish. It'd be fine at 3 laps, but the minimum for each race is 5, so in the time it took me to get through 2 courses in this, I would have already finished a cup in Super Circuit. And speaking of Super Circuit, it just has better tracks with more variety. I can't believe I'm paying a compliment like that to the most disposable Mario Kart, but that length combined with some technical problems really gave me no choice, because this game leaves a bad first impression. F-Zero Maximum Velocity has everything that makes F-Zero great. Put SNES and X in a blender, and on paper you'll have this. There are just so many weird mistakes. First among them is that I couldn't even get past the first race on beginner without the tightest turning imaginable. I thought this game was totally broken until a heavenly Reddit article rescued me. That tight turning tech, or tap turning, or whatever you want to call it, is never tutorialized, and there is no tutorial for it that I can find in the game, which is a huge oversight because the game is unplayable without it. Here's an example. You barely notice I make this turn, and yet I am tapping that button ferociously. Here, I'm turning just the same without tapping the button, and it looks like I'm not even doing anything. I've seen people critique this game for being too slippery, and in moments like this, it is very visible. I played this on GBA originally, but for footage sake I used the Switch NSO, where the sharp turn is impossible due to the rewind controls. I never did it on Game Boy because the tap turning was so effective, so I don't really know how much of a point this is. It's an F-Zero game. There are going to be tight turns, but does every turn have to be a tight one? Maybe this is just my experience, but look at this, it's not even tight! It's this weird instance of the game trying to have its cake. Oh yes, let's throw in all the optimizations and maneuvers from X, why not? And eat it too. Well, but we can't make it exactly like X, so let's throw this stuff into a buffed up version of the SNES release. That's sort of a belittling point, and I'm being a little hard on this game because, again, I did have fun with it. Once I got the turning down, I had a blast on the first 2 difficulties. Then, the second major issue kicked in. This game has no difficulty balancing. You don't go faster, the courses barely get harder. The only thing the difficulty selections change is the rubber banding on the AI. There are only so many ways to go around these basic SNES leftover tracks because they neuter the boost. The game's AI is clearly balanced like X's, with the intention that you could boost whenever at the cost of your health. It's that risk versus reward concept that I can't imagine these games without, so what idiot decided to only give you one 5-second boost a lap? Again, I'm not super familiar with the SNES release, so this could be more in line with that, but this game is much more like X. It takes too many cues to uphold so much of the SNES version's rules and logic and feel. The limits on the boost make the later difficulties a slog because you're always playing catch-up to rubber banding, and the AI rams you every 4 seconds, causing you to spin out and then to zoom away, which is bullshit. I had to race over and over again, not because they were faster than me or better than me, but because they kept hitting me. I don't even need the footage in front of me. I will never forget how much that pissed me off. And yes, in the higher difficulties on X and GX, the AI does the same thing, but the way that it totally neuters you, the way that it kept happening to me over and over and over again. I lost more races in this game due to constant bumper cars than actual skill. This would be a significantly smaller issue if you could fight back, like the other F-Zero games that this one obviously worships. Not only are your boost capabilities handicapped, but so are your attack capabilities, as in there are none. Who thought of that? Imagine an offensive racer where offense is impossible. It just doesn't make sense. And again, I don't want to say something that will just come off as a skill issue. I just think this game hides its rubber banding way worse than the other F-Zero games. The whatever tracks, the unfair AI, and the player being handcuffed always comes together to make something that you should put down after intermediate. But it also doesn't really matter because as long as you score 3rd place or higher, you win. It's a checkpoint racer? Huh? I know I'm laying into this game like it's the breakfast section at a buffet, but I did have a good time with this, and I can't rationally rate it lower than a 7 out of 10, but I was so relieved when it was over. It's fun if you don't care about winning, but what is F-Zero about if not the glory and intoxication of winning? Every major critique I heard about X, I feel about Maximum Velocidrive. I may have gotten used to the controls, but they're still beyond weird. I think X's courses do just barely enough to stand apart from each other, and these do absolutely nothing. And the music really isn't there, which isn't a huge surprise for a GBA game, but for F-Zero, it's kind of a bummer. This is very much, well, I don't want to be on Reels 24/7, so I'll check this game out. Why not? A game for the license, and that's just about it. At the same time, though, I understand the irony that I'm criticizing this as a follow-up to X when it's really more of a direct sequel to the SNES original. I personally think it takes too much from X without capturing the same perfection, but please, let me know if you disagree. Let me know in the comments if I should play GP Legend. Again, you've seen some pretty scrubby lukewarm footage here, and I'm sorry for being bad. Don't worry guys, you don't have to crucify me or anything for the skill issues on the footage. It's already been taken care of.
Oh boy, I sure hope my femur doesn't get broken.
Ooh-wee! Ooh-wee!
Ooh-wee!
That makes me feel nice and refreshed to check out GX. The golden god, if you will. The last son of this beloved franchise. The GameCube is in no shortage of cult classics with followings the size of tangerines. And if any game deserves to be on GameCube NSO, it's F-Zero GX. Unfairly forgotten, and accessibility is the perfect thing to remedy that. And oh my god, in my wildest, wettest dreams, this game is every inch the perfect sequel. More tracks, more modes, more racers, more variety, a story. It's overwhelming. It's a sight to behold, and it's also well thought out. All these guys got lore, all their cars have lore, they each play different roles in different places. A story mode would be amazing to dive headfirst into this world, but that's not really the idea. That's sort of the main attraction here, isn't it? The major thing setting this F-Zero apart from the others is the story mode. I might as well start there because anyone who's played this game figures it's where to start. There's not much of a story here, just Captain Falcon having to be the best like no one ever was, and it doesn't really get into the greater lore of who's this, what does she do, and it's basically a bunch of challenge races tied together by a MacGuffin. And a challenge it is. I was quickly overwhelmed and under-equipped, even on normal mode, and when I found out there were harder difficulties after barely clearing normal, I had to seriously evaluate what I was doing with my life. The very smart idea that's very clear in this game is that you're supposed to progress through the story slowly as you progress through the cups, and practice because you have to buy the chapters in the shop and you'll never have enough for the next chapter without playing a Grand Prix. It is ruthlessly hard and I want to sit and point at it and call it unfair, but it's really not. None of these challenges are dependent on RNG. It's all about skill, positioning, reaction time, and speed. I have avoided talking about rubber banding because, yes, it is a racing game from the early 2000s. There is going to be rubber banding. There's rubber banding in X and in Maximum Velocity. I only had a problem with it in Maximum Velocity because it was the only element of challenge in the game. It definitely works the best in GX. In my grind to beat all the cups on expert difficulty, I'd always pick out someone in the top 3 and make them my villain of the week. It became fun to identify the few pricks that kept giving me a hard time, and I developed a real sense of rivalry with them. In X, it was always Blood Falcon. In GX, it was always Shocker, Black Bull, and also Fart Shark. The amazing courses and that sense of rivalry effortlessly captures that need for speed vibe. If Dom Toretto discovered this game, I think we would be in the good timeline from Sonic CD where they stopped making Fast and Furious movies after Furious 7. One thing that's massively improved in GX is the sideswipe attack. I could never really get it down in X for whatever reason, but in here it was much easier. That being said, you may be able to wreck the AI easier, but it's also easier for them to wreck you. X's 60 FPS is still impressive, but GX's 60 FPS is another level. It feels like 29 other unique people are racing with you because there's never a stomp, there's never a victory easily taken. This game requires precision early on, not just in reaction, but also predictability. You gotta see turns coming. You have to anticipate threats from behind you. I love trying to get right in front of second place so they bump me and give me a boost, but not hard enough for them to make me wreck. It's one of the many instances of finding that beautiful middle ground. Over time, the razor-sharp handling, with each subtle tilt of the joystick making a difference, becomes rhythmic. You can improve, and with time, you can even perfect this game, but I'd say it never stops testing you. You've seen a lot of my own sweaty footage, and I know I keep making jokes about it, but listen, I'm not that bad, guys. If I had to break it down, I have my races where everything is perfect. I'm in the flow, like that guy from Soul. I'm Johnny First Try, and sometimes I'm the worst dude to ever touch these games. Other YouTubers have a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of skill to make this game look easy. I say this because I don't want to make these games sound intimidating. Though it may not look like it, F-Zero is easy to pick up but hard to master, unless it's the story mode. Then it's hard to even press start. There are a lot of great little details that shine, like how the character portraits vibrate and move to simulate the fact that they're really driving. If you thought X didn't have enough course variety, then this is the game for you. Multiplex, Mobius Ring, Serial Gaps, Intersection, Dragon Slope. It's basically another oops all banner scenario here. Some of these are non-stop boost fests, and getting better with each Grand Prix run was a thrill. There were so many times where I felt like a racing god when I turned from John Nasty into Johnny First Try. A lot of these tracks really made me hit that feeling of where time slows completely and the tracks feel like extensions of yourself. This game made me so nostalgic for this era of video games, when they had lively, soulful soundtracks. Games that were huge and jam-packed with content even though they didn't have to be. I've already said F-Zero was emblematic of the most creative days of video games, but it truly puts into perspective looking from Maximum Velocity to this, to see how much the growing hardware helped developers break free of their pixel prisons, and finally make the games they had in their head in the early 80s and 90s. Smash Brothers has kept this racing icon on life support for almost 25 years, and as much as I want to be upset about that, I'm grateful, because I don't know if I would have tried these games otherwise. Smash is the ultimate backdoor pilot for old series and new series to gain new audiences and tighten the grip around their existing fan bases. Kid Icarus Uprising and F-Zero Stasis are in part thanks to Smash Brothers. But it didn't get there out of luck. Even the SNES version was fun and distinctive enough to get a sequel. Had it it made any less of an impact, maybe we wouldn't have seen Cap in Smash. Maybe it was F-Zero's pep and tenacity that inspired the soundtracks I love so much and score these videos with. You may be able to fall forward into a victory in any of these games. Your rival takes a lucky hit, your rivals bomb the race, you accidentally scrape against them and it somehow kills. But F-Zero didn't fall forward into victory. It earned its place in Smash and its eternal spot in Nintendo's library by emphasizing a pedigree of fast, fun, perfect gameplay. Everything that needed to be good was knocked out of the park. Some of these games may look old, but they still play as if they were released yesterday. It's one of the few early series that asks the player for perfection while being perfect itself, and I urge you to check it out so we can finally wake the Sleeping Beauty and take one look at Cap and tell me why you wouldn't want to wake him. Look at that skin-tight blue suit. Look at how badly that man needs kissed. By a man. Maybe it's like why the new Shrek looks so uncanny. Maybe Nintendo themselves have lost the F-Zero spirit. They have lost what made the original F-Zero games F-Zero. Maybe we haven't seen any more yet because they don't have the confidence that they can replicate it. But better yet, maybe they don't think it'll be worth the money. But if we can get our 4th remake of Star Fox, I think it's only reasonable to ask Nintendo, please, 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 please,
Please let me talk to him.
I would happily watch 1,000 more slop IP Flex movies if it tickled Nintendo enough to make another F-Zero. I will personally, I can't say that here, put out a new F-Zero game. Worst thing that happens is that the hardcore fans buy it, play it for 1,000 hours each, and buy it again. Releasing a new game is the only way I can think to make a new generation fall in love with F-Zero. Only our support can turn this relic into gaming's next golden brick. And while our love may not be enough, it's certainly worth trying. It's worth playing F-Zero.